Okay, so I think we've covered a lot of etiquette, reticate. We've talked about it, voting and downvoting. Why do you say Rexmormon instead of Exmormon? Talk about what subreddits are and why the R comes in
Why do I
front
say Rexmormon?
instead of Exmormon Reddit or something like that.
Well,
Yeah.
because I asked Mithrin how to pronounce it, and that's what he told me.
Okay.
I mean, I asked the other mods. I've been here forever, and I had to ask them, hey, how do you actually pronounce our subreddit?
They call it Rexmormon instead of
apparently
R.
the cool
Exmormon.
kids call it Rexmormon.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Or the Exmormon subreddit. So these subreddits, what is a subreddit? Just tell our listeners really quick.
So a subreddit is Reddit divided up into forums by topic.
Okay.
And the platform makes it very simple for someone to get on and create a new forum, a new subreddit. Basically, all the tools that you need to create a new forum, you can create a new forum. I could do one right now in 30 seconds.
Call it Gardening in Utah, and it would be your own little subreddit, right?
Sure.
And then there are mods and rules for each subreddit, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. Talk about the front page of Reddit and how that's significant, what that means.
Well,
so I've just clicked on it.
It's significant in the sense that Reddit is the number 4 most viewed website in the US, and I think number 9 in the world.
Okay.
So this real estate on the front page of Reddit is extremely valuable for anyone looking to have their content seen.
It's like a newspaper, right? It's like the New York Times, or
And I'm pretty sure the readership of the front page of Reddit outstrips the New York Times subscriber base by several orders of magnitude.
Right.
But so this is sort of what would the term be? The golden,
the Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail for anyone looking to get their content seen on Reddit. And one of the exciting things at Rexmormon is the way the algorithm works now. Because we're such an active site, our content actually sort of gets piped to the front page more easily than, say, just a standard subreddit.
What's the process of someone's post in Rexmormon actually making the front page?
There needs to be an initial burst of upvotes. So if there's a threshold for a lot of this. I mean, there's algorithms at work, but if you've got a post that within the space of a few minutes at Rexmormon has logged 2,000, 3,000 upvotes, then things start to happen in the background that gets pumped out to pages that Reddit is saying, hey, this looks like popular content on Rexmormon. We want other users on Reddit to see it. And then they'll judge, these are non-subscribers, just random Reddit users. And if they judge that as interesting to them, they're going to upvote that as well. And that's, I would say in the last 6 months, that's what's been really exciting, is having all of these people coming in from what's called R-all, R-ALL,
okay,
which is sort of the bucket for the front page of Reddit. And they're saying, well, I just wandered in here from the front page, and you Exmos really have some crazy stories to tell, or some, and that's gratifying. It's for some reason, this little subreddit has now risen to be number 220 at this point in the rank of subreddits on Reddit.
Right. So it's it's in the top 250 subreddits in the world, right?
Exactly. And that translates to millions of page views, hundreds of thousands of unique views every month. It's a substantial portal.
Okay. And I'm on R-all for those who are watching. I'm on
okay, so you got a chance to look here. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are, it's just a bit, injuries as Van hits crowd in Barcelona.
And you look at sort of the upvote counts there. It's like 35,000, 36,000. Right. These are the.
Got it. Okay, cool. So that's what the front page is. You subscribe to subreddits, if you want to. You don't have to subscribe to a subreddit, right?
You don't have to subscribe.
But if you do, what does it mean to subscribe to it?
It just means when you go to your the subreddits that you're subscribed to, when you go to your front page, that's going to be a customized front page for you based on your subscriptions.
So here I've got, politics, news, today I learned, movies, WTF, technology.
Mormons Gone Wild. What's this? Right. Okay. No, sorry.
Atheism, whatever. Ask
right.
science.
So that's sort of your toolbar. And these are sort of the subreddits that will pop up on your front page based on the algorithms that will rank that. They're trying to guess on what kind of content you're interested in looking at. So as a subscriber of Rexmormon, I'm constantly seeing Exmormon content on my front page, but for a non-subscriber, they're not going to see that unless it gets enough upvotes that it makes its way to all on its own steam.
So if I have my own account, when I log in and if I subscribe to a bunch of forums, my homepage for Reddit is an aggregate of the top posts in all the subreddits I'm subscribed to. Is that right?
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. And with a number of, and let's see what we're looking at.
So this is my homepage. Yeah. So it's got IMA.
And I'm not sure what the default subreddits are now. I think you end up with a mix of like default subreddits and your own subreddits.
Yeah.
Sort of creating this custom front page experience for you.
Right. Yeah. But in mine, it's got Mormon, Latter-day Saints, Exmormon, Explain Like I'm Five, Ask Science.
Well, thank you for subscribing to our Mormon. That started at the same time as Rexmormon, and it's just been. I was a mod there for years as year. I never asked you about this. You were a mod at our Mormon for a short while.
Yeah, I didn't know what it meant. I got just too involved. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of. There's some good mods there, but with such a quiet forum, there's not a whole lot to do, to be honest.
Yeah. And I don't think I fully understood what Reddit was either when I agreed to do that. Yeah. Okay. So you can report a post. If you don't like it, you can report it and mods can respond, right?
You can report a post. Please don't report it if you just simply disagree with the sentiment.
Right.
Unless it's something ugly.
Right. So there's a little report thing here that you can click on and report it. You can hide stuff, share stuff, save stuff, right? I think it's cool that it tells you statistics, right? So if you go to Exmormon, you can see that 51,960 people have subscribed to it. But that's not how many people view it, right?
Right. This is subscribers. And
some of those are going to be dual accounts, people who have their primary account, but then secondary accounts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily representing the total number of people who view the site, right?
Yeah, I think this is marginally more reliable than some of the LDS membership statistics. maybe not by much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it shows how many people are currently viewing it. So 1,000 people.
This is actually a more interesting metric. I mean,
yeah.
What makes the forum interesting is really how many people are online at any one moment.
Yeah.
Which it's fairly interesting. You get 1,000 people at any one moment, and in the last 6 months, I would say it's been fairly constant. That the average has been around 1,000, 1,002 at any one time, and it'll bump up to 8,000 or 9,000 when something really big hits.
And just to give context, Politics has 3.5 million subscribers and 40,000 people online.
Yeah, so like 1/40th of whatever
of Politics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool to know. And also posts, you can see how many people have viewed a given post, right? So if I click on this post,
and you're looking at,
it's got 328 points,
mm-hmm.
which mean 96% of the people have upvoted it.
Wait a second, there were 4% of the people downvoted this?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to write a comment calling out the people who downvoted this. Hang on a second.
No, don't do that. That'll waste our time.
Kidding, but that's kind of how that metric ends up working. Like people say, how did we get so many downvotes on this post? The TPMs are like brigading our forum and coming in and downvoting worthy content. One thing to keep in mind, there's some fuzzy algorithms going on that no matter what you post in this forum, there's going to be downvotes.
Okay.
Reddit will come in and just behind the scenes throw in some downvotes so that nobody's going to sit on 100% upvoted.
And then sometimes it shows you how many people have viewed the post, right?
Well, I think you can see it, can't you?
Well, I don't know.
I think what you just clicked on. So, oh wait, you've got that. Yeah, let me scroll down a bit.
I don't see how many people have viewed this post particularly, but sometimes I see that, and I don't know why. If that's just on your own post,
I think it's because that's your own post. I think I'm in the same
boat. No, that's not my own post. This would be my own post. A Final Evening with Grant Palmer, but that is actually
that's on
a link. So, but if I click on,
did you post? Okay, so now go into comments. Go into full comments. Just hit full comments down here.
Full comments, right?
Yeah.
And then
I keep pointing my fingers if you can see me. Okay.
And there you go. So 846 views.
So that's something that the owner of the content can see that.
Okay, got it. That's what I was. So you can see how many people see your stuff. That's nice. All right. So, and then finally talk about the role of this little filter, the tabs on top.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a fun thing at the top.
So hot, new.
So hot is that's the hot topics of the day. If you go to new, I don't really use rising or controversial too much, but if you go to new, this is almost a different. Oh, see, so John, this is great. Did you read the third one down?
Yeah, John Dillon's a dumbass and I hate Mormon Stories. I love it. That I expected that. I absolutely expected that to happen.
Well, that's what I was. So the new tab, to the point regarding the new tab, is where you can see a lot of funny stuff. I'm
upvoting it, by the way.
Exactly, do it. I doubt this will make the front page. Maybe it will. I don't know.
Yeah. But people tried to actually link to this Facebook podcast.
Oh, and they got, yeah. So we don't. Yeah. Oh, well, let's see what it says. It
says links to Facebook are disallowed, and it's a bot. It's a bot basically saying,
yeah,
people can't link to it. But people are having conversations about this current live podcast, and they're making jokes about it, right?
Sure.
Yeah. What were you going to say? Go ahead.
I lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say that post, assuming it doesn't make the front page because it's just kind of a funny throwaway post.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing you can see on new. That's why I like to use the new tab, because there's just so much content coming in every day now that if you only see the top posts on the front page, you're going to miss a lot of just the edgier, sillier content that's here. Oh, see, like here's someone saying hi.
Hi, John Dillon and Jason Echols.
Yeah.
Shout out to John, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So later on, when we get down here, I'll pop in and say thank you to whoever that OP was. And an OP is an original poster. Anyone who bothers to post content or post a text post, that's an OP. So I'll drop in and say, hey, thanks for the shout out.
Got it. Okay.
We've only got 3 comments on this one. And so another thing that happened, so if I look at this, and we gave the mods at Exmormon 0 heads up that we were going to do this chat.
Right.
So they didn't sticky the post, which is that maybe something for people to know. If you've got something important like an AMA,
ask me anything, right?
It's a scheduled event. You're someone of note who's going to talk about some topic at length, and you want to invite the entire community to come in and ask you questions. That's an AMA, and the mods at Exmormon are generally really, really good about, let's sticky that. They'll put a green sticky on that. It'll sit at the top of the page and it'll drive attention to that.
Right.
So
like the Bill Reel or the Lindsay Henson Park AMA.
Right.
All right. Is gold relevant? Reddit gold? Is that even interesting, or is it not really used?
It's a nice token. If you really, really like a comment and you want to throw something to the corporate owners of Reddit to show appreciation for the platform, yeah, sure.
You click on give gold, and what does that do?
Hit give gold, and it's an anonymous way it can be. You can let them know who you are, but it just distinguishes that comment.
But it's a way, so it's actual money, and it's a way to.
But the money goes to the owners of Reddit, of the platform.
It's a way to help Reddit be sustainable.
Yeah, and I'm certainly would not suggest they need much help at this point, but.
Okay, that was a way back then. All right, so let's just quickly talk about Exmormon Reddit's growth. Talk about its growth over time, how it started and where it is now.
Well, okay. I mean, I think you have some thoughts on that. Let me pull up.
Yeah. So when you said it started with 6 people back in 2009. You said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
there's if you go onto the forum, generally every time we tick up 1,000 users, like recently we've been adding more than 1,000 users, 1,000 subscribers per month. And so like when we hit 50,000 subscribers,
that was a big deal.
Not your thing, yeah?
Okay. No, that was a big thing. No, that was...
Yeah, we hit 50... It's numbers. So we hit 50,000, everybody's like, yay. And, like a user like, I think his name is 4Blockhead. He's one of our regulars, just just a machine in terms of like putting content into the site. He'll give like a statistical rundown, and it'll show how we've built up steam, built up momentum. I think we've like rolled over almost at 52,000 now, and 50,000 was just weeks ago.
Right.
So there's that. I wanted to pull up.
So you said 3 million page views per month, 50,000 subscribers. 220,000 monthly unique visitors.
And that's the thing is, those are already stale statistics, because when I pulled those up to have this conversation with you, I hadn't taken into account mobile users.
Right.
And there's another post that one of the mods made explaining just the incredible numbers we're getting from mobile users. But I'm just, in terms of stats, that's something that people, if they go onto the forum and just do a quick search, there's just multiple posts talking about our statistics, because go figure, as ex-Mormons, we're kind of fascinated by the numbers we can crank out.
Sure.
That's being anyway, it goes back to the old mission experience and just kind of the way we use numbers as metrics to, pat ourselves on the back and tell ourselves that we're doing a great job. So, but statistically, actually, we are doing a great job. And I just wanted to pull up.
No, I mean, it's the biggest site in Mormonism, probably, right?
Well, and that's, 5 months ago when you said, hey, who are the dominant forces right now in the Exmo discussion? Is there anyone bigger?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean,
and I think the nice thing about it is we don't spend a lot of time talking about how big we are.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first time we've actually had this conversation with Mormon Stories, right?
Yeah, sure.
Publicly, in terms of like patting ourselves on the back and saying, look at this thing. And that's what I really like about it. If I'm pretty sure if there was a single blog in the Bloggernacle that was posting even a tenth of these kinds of numbers, we'd never hear the end of it.
Yeah, right.
And that's,
Totally. So it's a juggernaut now. Exmormon, like RFM has faded. The blogs have certainly faded. I can't say the podcasts have faded, because Mormon Stories, we're on track to have like more than 6 million downloads and views this year, and it was only 4.7 last year. So I mean, we're growing still, but
well, and I would say the consensus that I see just from browsing Rex Mormon is that people are always hungry for new podcast content.
Yeah,
it's a completely different animal. If you can put out an interesting podcast, that's just, there's synergy there between a podcast and what Rex Mormon does.
Yeah.
And I think Rex Mormon is almost a perfect platform for sort of promoting whatever podcast you're doing, because it's the one digital media that you can't enjoy that through Rex Mormon. You've kind of get on the podcast and go hit the treadmill or whatever.
Yeah, because when people are biking or commuting or driving or mowing their lawn, they can't read Exmormon Reddit, so they.
Yeah, I mean it kind of fills that gap between leaving the house and driving to work and getting to your job. So you get off Rex Mormon at home, get in the car and go. That's your 20 minutes for John, and then you get to the office and you hide the screen behind all of your.
And you're on Rex Mormon all day.
Basically through your work day.
And then on your drive back, you listen.
On your drive back, maybe it's John. It could be some other podcast at that point,
right?
Depending on how your day went.
Yeah. And then rinse and repeat. No, if you're exercising, riding your bike, mowing your lawn, doing the dishes. Yeah. That
demand's not going away, I think, for podcasts. And I think it's only increasing. I mean, if Rex Mormon's numbers are any indication, the audience is it's still growing.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it'd be cool to just talk about some of the biggest stories ever, some of the biggest developments or stories that have come out of Rex Mormon. And so you asked me to put kind of top stories of all time, right? And maybe to talk about.
Well, and that's something that's always available for a user anytime. Yeah. So if you just hit the top tab.
So it's there, top all time.
And then you have the pull down menu on the left top that allows you to choose between this year, this month, this week, all time.
Yep.
So now we're looking at the all time tab, right?
And this is purely based on upvotes?
This is based on accrued upvotes.
Yeah.
And this is going to give you the rank. And so let's go in and see what we've got here. So you've got, all right, so this is a post, for example, that has big crossover appeal, obviously. You've got Penn and Teller, right?
Yep.
Being applied, a quote from Penn and Teller being applied to the ex-Mormon experience, right? Talking about, hey, I've left the church and all that bad stuff that I'm supposed to want to do. Guess what? I could do it, but I don't want to, because we're all basically good people.
And the post says, I do rape all I want, and the amount I want is 0. That's the name of the post.
Like, that's the take home, right?
That's the most popular ex-Mormon subreddit post ever, right?
Yeah, and there were probably 80%. I would just go out on a limb and say 80% of those upvotes were probably once this had hit the front page of Reddit and everyone's looking at that and saying, yes, I agree with this sentiment.
And there's 703 comments, which is a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And that's maybe this is a good time to talk about this. Just writing titles, writing headlines is a huge aspect of success in the business of reaping karma, reaping upvotes on Reddit. If you can write a headline that draws people in or allows them to have sort of an immediate reaction to the content, you're going to benefit from that.
Okay. Any of these other stories catch your eye that you want to comment about?
We can go one by one. And actually, can we take a time out for a second?
Well, we're live, so I can take questions or comments from listeners. Do you need to take a break?
I mean a timeout from this topic. Just give me 1 second. I want to put a coda in here about, we're talking about podcasts, right?
Yeah, sure, whatever.
I honestly, John, I sincerely believe that someone could do a weekly podcast that was little more than taking the top Reddit posts of the week and talking through the podcaster's reaction to each of those posts. Just because when I talk about those 20 minutes between when you're at home, having breakfast and grabbing your coffee and then driving the car to work, you're missing out on Rex Mormon for those 20 minutes.
Yeah.
This would fill that gap, and you'd be able to say, hey, guess what? You can't read this, but we're going to talk through the top posts.
Yeah, I'd be willing to sponsor something like that with the Open Stories Foundation. I don't know if it's in Rex Mormon sort of code or ethics or vibes to want to partner with us, but I can say I'd love that.
Well, I don't think the thing is, this is all, you wouldn't have to partner with anyone to do it. If you had someone who wanted to generate that kind of content, it would simply be someone sitting down and saying, let's read through the top 10 posts this week and just have a little chat about what each one of those mean. It's pretty easy.
So here's the deal. I own mormonnews.com. If anybody wanted to start a podcast called Mormon News Podcast, I would lend my Mormon News Podcast domain to it. And it could be something that showcases the top stories on Reddit. They just need to come to me and show an interest and an aptitude and ability to do this. And maybe it'll be born from today's discussion, Jason.
Well, you know where I got this idea originally. This is years ago, but when I was in Italy and I was watching their daily news, and it was attractive. Newscasters basically sitting at a desk picking up the morning papers. And they would literally pick up the morning paper and read through the headlines and have this little casual chat about what the papers were saying. And I thought, that is about the easiest content generation possible. And it's fun because you're basically just watching two well-spoken people go through the morning's headline. And this is basically what Rex Mormon does now, is give us very quick access to a bunch of headlines.
Right. So there's several people who responded. Melissa wants to help out with that. Hannah says that's a great idea. Logan says he's willing to do it, but he doesn't know how. So if any of you guys really seriously want to do this and think you'd be good, reach out. Okay, what else did you want to say about that, Jason?
Well, so let's segue from that. Let's do a dry run and talk as if we were doing like the top 10 posts from Rex Mormon. Okay.
Okay, let's do it.
So Penn and Teller, that's a no-brainer, and probably my throwaway side comment if I was reading this would be like, Rex Mormon is dominated by what I would call the new atheists.
Right.
The vibe is younger, sort of an aggressive younger atheism that's skeptical of any religious claims. It's not limited to Mormonism. So, that's sort of the dominant vibe. And this is a perfect sort of quote that these are the folks who would be part of the new atheist pantheon of heroes. Number two, this gets into the selfie-geddon.
I'll read it. So there's a selfie of a husband and I presume a wife, I'm presuming, hugging each other on a beach. And the caption is, "I don't give this marriage 3 years, quote, unquote. That's what I overheard from two of my closest TBMs shortly after we announced that our marriage would not take place in a temple. Today is our 3-year anniversary. We've never been happier."
Right.
So that's got 12.4 thousand upvotes, 608 comments, posted 4 months ago.
And that's fairly self-explanatory why that's so popular, right? I mean, you're giving people validation for a sentiment that we all have. I mean, I've been married 20 years to a Nevermo. I think I have a great kids, great family, but we see so many stories on the site of people who don't get that validation from their Mormon families when they make choices that don't line up with sort of the Mormon game plan, right?
and ex-Mormon Redditors like to see things like that. It's kind of validating. It makes us feel good. It dispels myths and stereotypes, etc.
Exactly. So that's what's going on there. And I think if you scroll down and you look at, the selfies that probably dominate a lot of these.
Let's keep going.
Okay,
So the next one is
down here. Right down here. So here we've got, all in for 61 years. Shelf crashed 3 years ago. People know what a shelf is. That's where you keep all your doubts.
Right.
And then, when that finally breaks and you have to face the question of, hey, would I want to know if it's not true? Do I want to actually, research? Yeah. And she's just saying, look, did my resignation, late to the party. And that's it. Nobody expected this to happen. No, this was not planned. I don't think any of the mods or anyone thought it would happen. Actually, quite a few of us are ambivalent about this whole phenomenon.
Right.
But
just people doing their selfies and then giving a little bio of their life in a
bio
title.
And saying, hey, look at me. I've been out since 2016 and I'm happy. Enjoying life.
And that's number 3.
This actually started at XJW, the Jehovah's Witness site.
Right.
That's where this thing started, was actually on the Jehovah's Witness subreddit. And some Exmos saw it and said, wow, that's fun. And it just took off.
Okay. Number 4 is this one. It's basically it's a little picture of a little sign that says the best cure for Christianity is reading the Bible, Mark Twain. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's on a chimney or a porch or something like that. It's just basically an image. And
it's one of the, I would call that one of the familiar new atheist messages. Mark Twain's always going to be popular here. Dawkins,
Hitchens, Harris.
Right. That's
and the title was "This Christian Bookstore Missed the Point." Yeah. Missed the point of Mark Twain's quote. Yeah.
Pardon?
They missed the point of Mark Twain's quote. Of Mark Twain's quote.
Yeah, and I think it's the tension between that and the fish open sign.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, then there's a meme. Memes are very popular. The meme has a couple in front of the Salt Lake Temple, and it says, "I don't support same-sex marriage because marriage is sacred. This is my wife. We met 2 months ago at BYU." And the caption is, "I have so many friends from high school who are in the same kind of situation. It's ridiculous." And that has 8,000 upvotes.
Well, and I think this is a cultural reality in the landscape in Mormonism, right? We all know so many folks who've gotten married after a week, 2 months, quite young.
Yeah, totally.
Actually, I don't need to explain these, but I think I'm explaining why this would be so popular. It's just, this touches a chord. Now,
this one 6 is, I want to talk a tiny bit about this, right? It's got a selfie of a woman in a let's just say a more revealing
this is
dress.
Going back to the Mormons Gone Wild tab that you're hiding.
I'm hiding it.
No, I'm kidding. I'm saying.
Is there really a Mormons Gone Wild?
I don't know. I just made that up. But
okay.
They're probably.
So it's showing a bit of a skimpier dress. She's got a tattoo. It's showing some cleavage. It doesn't show her face. And it says, "Finally told my mom I would not allow her modesty shaming me. It's 90 effing degrees out. I will wear the clothes I want to wear." This is the number 6 most popular Exmormon Reddit post of all time.
Well, do you want me to explain it to you, or do you want me to mansplain it to you?
Both.
I think what's going on here, at least for me, and I don't think I probably commented on this particular post. Assuming this is the OP, assuming this is the original poster, I'm just going to take the sentiment expressed in the title at face value.
Okay.
Because there are plenty of other ways you could take it, and you could ask yourself, well, why is this popular at Rex Mormon? Does that say something about the flavor of the community? Probably. And I think if we went down into comments, there's probably a whole discussion about that.
Right. Okay. So,
what's on your mind, John? What's your sense when you see that?
I think talk about Reddit and women, the Ex-Mormon Reddit and women, about objectification, about these memes, about the selfies. about the treatment of women. Is that a topic worth talking about?
It's definitely a topic that gets talked about on the site, and for good reason, obviously. I mean, this is kind of, I've seen the accusation leveled. I've heard the accusation leveled in various podcasts and various venues saying, Rex Mormon is it's basically a pit of misogyny. And I think if you actually read through the site and you keep up with the conversations, that's not particularly the case. Those conversations tend to be addressed almost as they're happening. People who will say, hey, you don't bring that here. That gets addressed fairly quickly. I also think we're all coming out of Mormonism, which has got to be one of the most patriarchal institutions in the world. To think that there wouldn't be some leftover issues. And I think it's a pro. I think it's good that the forum is open enough that allows people to wander in and maybe say things that they need to learn that that's not how it works in the grown-up world. So
if men say objectifying comments about women, like hubba hubba,
if you get commenters who start objectifying women, if they start objectifying the users in the forum, those get addressed. They don't just
Do they get deleted? Do they get downvoted? Do they get modded?
And that's what the mods are there for. I mean, that's that call that gets made. I would say that as a forum, it doesn't operate in what would be called a safe space. It's more of a free for all than how that would operate.
Right.
But not by much. I mean, I think when it comes to misogynistic comments, when it comes to objectification, those kinds of things, that's getting talked about, and the mods have a handle on that.
Yeah, totally. Cool. All right. Well,
I think in terms of like with that selfie, that is where I would say that like for myself or some of the mods, I'm more in the free for all camp as far as my personal inclinations go. But others will look at that and say, what we don't want the site to become is a beauty contest. And they'll look at the selfies and say, at what point does it end up being people are getting upvoted because they're able to like put together the most compelling selfie as opposed to validating their ex-Mormon experience.
Got it.
Is that?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. I think the listeners have a sense for the types of posts that we've been talking about. I want to shift slightly to the role that Rex Mormon has played, particularly in breaking news. And so as I scroll down, I see 21 leaked video of closed door meetings with Quorum of 12 Apostles. If you think about many of the big stories that have hit the church in the past few years, whether it's the 2015 November policy, the leaking of the content with church leaders that led to the creation of Mormonleaks. It seems like these days when the AP or Salt Lake Trib wants to write a story, often it was Rex Mormon that broke the story. And I would even go as far to say that many of the sources or information that gets used in these news stories oftentimes is at least originally pulled from Rex Mormon. Talk about that, if you don't mind.
Well, I mean, I think if you look at what Mormonleaks, I mean, the fact that Mormonleaks works, I think it's an outgrowth of what Rex Mormon made possible as a platform. In terms of, there's a lot of angles to this. In terms of writing a story for paper, there's a lot of pieces that you have to pull together in one place so that the reporter can then write up an actual story. And I think the way that Rex Mormon crowdsources a lot of those pieces and puts them all in one place, if I were a journalist, I would use Rex Mormon as a resource to basically scroll through the comments section, and I'm going to get my who, what, where, when, why all right there and see what further research needs to be done. But it's very quickly going to pull together the threads that I need to write a story.
Right. And it's being used that way, wouldn't you say?
And my sense is it's being used that way. And we definitely need the paid journalists. We need the professionals to write the stories in a way how can I say this? The thing that I'm grateful for with Exmormon is that prior to this phenomenon, prior to what we have access to now, the institution was able to write the story. One side got told, and there really wasn't a mechanism for those of us who wanted to say, tell a different narrative to get that out there.
And now maybe there is a little bit more.
And I think we can kind of strip that alternative narrative from the overtones in the past of, oh, this is an angry ex-Mormon narrative. Who's giving you this story? Well, no, we say, no, here's the story. You look through it. You see what it gets vetted on the site before a reporter would even have to touch it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's playing an important role, in the news. Is it fair to say that things like CES letter or Mormon leaks wouldn't even, owe in large part their success to Exmormon? Is that fair to say? What do you think?
No, I think the platform has made things possible that weren't possible before, and it's a collective victory for the users of the platform. I mean, this is something that no one can take. I don't think there's any one person who can take credit for where we've wound up with Exmormon. I think it's an expression of something that was needed perhaps in the Mormon community, the ex-Mormon community, as a place to process documents, things that we have known about, but no one was ever really able to put in front of eyeballs. I mean, the stuff that Jeremy's talking about in the CES letter, we all know the bulk of that information was available, right?
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, he puts all of this information in one place, and then you have a platform to say, yes, here it is. He could get feedback,
he can share it. Like, as I understand it, early versions of the letter, he could share, he got feedback, he could make additions and corrections, and that Exmormon was, and it's a way that it gets promoted and shared outward more broadly.
And if someone were to ask me, well, why are you a fan of the CES letter? I would say primarily because I don't really want to have this conversation with anyone in my family who may want to look into these issues. I would much rather say, you know what, if this is something you want to research, just go follow this link, read through a few pages, come back and let me know if you have any thoughts on it. I don't want to be generating original content to bring to my friends or families who are in the church. I have no interest in challenging their beliefs or their views. But if that conversation were to come up, I would love to say, hey, go follow this link, go check it out. It's a really quick summary of a lot of different issues. It's a convenience.
Yeah.
That's my view.
But I also think it's a mechanism for crowdsourcing. And there's a lot of crowdsourcing that goes on from Exmormon. True?
Yeah, and you know what? I think you probably know the CES letter much better than I do. Do you get a sense that that's why it's such a nice fit? Because the CES letter almost feels like a crowdsourced product of just so many different issues, all summarized and laid out.
I don't know how Jeremy wrote it. I just got the sense that he was on Exmormon as he was writing it. It became a way that he could find out about the difficult things and even potentially find collaborators and get feedback. Mm-hmm. I feel like it was in at least some ways a collaborative, synergistic, crowdsourced effort. Jeremy will have to tell me if I'm wrong, but that's my sense. And there's certainly, for the promotion of it, Exmormon's played a really important role, as has Mormon Stories and other venues. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the same thing is true with Mormon Leaks, that Ryan McKnight and, his partners, many of the ideas came from early activities in Exmormon, and then whatever participation, collaboration, promotion happens, it's synergistic between Exmormon and Mormon Leaks and vice versa. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of it's kind of an ecosystem in some ways.
Sure. And it goes back to that thing of Exmormon being sort of a neutral ground, because no one owns the platform other than the corporate Reddit ownership. People don't have to be concerned about using that platform to make those kinds of connections with each other.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've given listeners a good sense for It's you know, the context that led to Exmormon, the basic features of the site, and its growth and success, and some of the main projects that it spawned or supported. Talk just really quickly about the life of a mod. You talked in your notes about the 15 mods and what they do, and it's probably a hard job. It's probably a thankless job.
It's largely thankless, and I will tell you that like the Q15 that we've got moderating, hey, you got to catch that bit of blasphemy.
I love it. Q15, 15 mods.
But there's a real mix in that group of 15 people. They run the gamut in terms of political outlook. You know, it goes from left to right. They run the gamut in terms of orientation, gender. It's all there. It's all in the mix. And a lot of what that group has to do is just make these judgment calls. If you see a comment, we were talking about, you know, is this an objectifying comment? Is this post objectifying women? Well, you've got 15 people coming from all different kinds of perspectives saying, here's the judgment call.
Right.
And that's really kind of that's the main importance of what they do, is keeping it on an even keel.
Do they sometimes get worn out? Do they sometimes have fights? Are there political?
Oh yeah, I mean,
like
sure.
talk a bit about the internal dynamics of being a mod and collaborating with other mods and trying to make decisions.
And you're always going to have the mods who are more active on a day-to-day basis. There's going to be a priority given probably to their views because they're the ones who are taking on the most work. And so it's a very sort of natural flow of, well, here's the group that's being particularly active in moderating the site, and their POV may come to the front for a period of time. Where you get dust-ups is sometimes, there's going to be dust-ups where someone has a very strong position on a particular issue, and if they can't get in sync with the rest of the group, they'll probably just choose to either be asked to leave or they'll step away. In my own case, when there's too much work to fit into the rest of one's life, and you're like, it's time to step out, let others take over. Generally speaking, over the last, I think it's been 8 years, 9 years, however long this thing's been going, there haven't been any dust-ups that have really been a hit on the community. You've been involved in probably some of the bigger dust-ups, just with some of what you've brought to the site.
Are you comfortable? Would it be inappropriate for you to talk about some of the biggest dust-ups just so that we can get a sense for?
You can't have, privacy is a preeminent concern. We all deal with each other anonymously. The mods are anonymous to each other for the most part.
They don't know each other?
Well, there's
officially.
Always officially. The way the day-to-day gets handled is you're not addressing each other on a first name basis. You run it like the business of moderating the forum. Obviously, there's phone calls and there's personal connections that get made there, but those don't. Yeah.
Are there any mods where no one knows the mod's identity in real life? Or are they all known to each other?
Well, with 15 people, you get this overlay of, hey, here's 4 or 5 people who know each other quite well, and they have 1 or 2 that know this other group quite well. I mean, there's going to be lines.
Yeah.
With 15 people, you're going to have different levels of familiarity with each other. I think in terms of
coalitions, probably coalitions that build and stuff.
Yeah, and where people are coming. You could have an expectation that, this group's going to have a certain take on this, predictably, and you manage those. The one big no-no is anything that crosses the line of privacy, because the biggest job for a mod at Exmormon is to safeguard the privacy of the users.
I love that.
And Reddit has built-in safeguards. Like, as a user, you would have to give away that information unilaterally from your side before anyone would become aware of it. But once you've given away that information, you want to make sure that the people you're talking to are going to hold that in confidence. Anything that smacks of divulging private information is something that's you'll be immediately released as a mod, potentially banned from the site. That's the one serious a bridge too far. And we've had a couple of instances of that. We've had people. The only thing that happens is you'll have a person in a peak of, the they'll be chagrined at a particular issue and will do something that requires them to be let go. And that's
a mod or just a user.
What happens with users, it will happen once every blue moon with a mod who forgets that privacy is king, and that's just, none of us are allowed to circumvent that.
Okay.
So
is it productive or interesting or worthwhile to mention 3 or 5 of the biggest dust ups that the mods got really taxed over? Or is that even worth mentioning?
I would say that it's easy to go into the forum and do a search for those, and do, like, if you were to type in mod drama, you'd probably get some insight. It really is, as far as I know, that's pretty much been the problem most of the time, is folks getting upset, and then all of a sudden you get some personal information leaking out in ways that are unacceptable. And you just, then the ban hammer has to come down. That's when, the founder of the subreddit, several of us who have been there over the long term, if something serious were to happen, that's why I came back in a few years ago, just because there was concern that there'd been some things happen that maybe we need to come in and start again, building a crew and keeping an eye on that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, and those folks that were involved with it, they're some of the best contributors on the sub. And to this day, they make some amazing contributions. It's just a line that none of us can cross in terms of protecting confidentiality.
So some mods had to be let go because they had violated confidentiality.
Right. That's really the main.
Yeah. But I haven't seen a lot of, like, I'm an ex-mod and I'm mad and this forum sucks. And I guess that would be modded out if that happened.
Well, the thing about the platform, and you're aware of this and familiar with it, I think, it's so easy to say, you know what? I'm fed up with you guys. I'm going to go start my own forum.
Yeah.
It literally takes 30 seconds to go start another subreddit and say, hey, I just created a subreddit about why I think Chino's doing a really poor job on this Mormon Stories interview. No, they could literally do that in the course of this discussion. Someone could set up a subreddit that's all about Chino being a disappointment in real life. And they could, assemble a crew of 3 or 4, call in their friends, and have a knockout, drag out discussion. And that's why it doesn't really happen that often, because it's so easy to do. I think what happened before, if you look at I'll just, as an example, I haven't participated there, I don't think, but let's take Mormon Discussions. Isn't there a place called Mormon Discussions online?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
And some of the conversations I see going on there just seem so, they go down these rabbit holes, and they're so bizarre, and they're so invested in their participation in that forum that it's almost like they're speaking another language that would be inscrutable to outsiders.
Right.
But I think that's because you can't just pick up that platform and move it somewhere else. They have to stay inside that, padded room and have that conversation. Whereas with Exmormon, if you feel like you're constrained by the limits of that forum, you could just start another subreddit. Probably the mods would even say, you know what, if it's topical to this subreddit, we'll just link to it for a while and let people know that they can go over there and talk about it. Generally speaking, we're in favor of having open conversations about almost anything, as long as they follow basic rules.
Got it.
So yeah, I would say one of the nice things over this first decade of the forum is there has not been the kind of drama that you would expect would throw things off kilter or threaten to disrupt the entire project.
Yeah, and that's good. That's to its credit. That's to the credit of the mods, right?
It's just to the credit of the user base. I would say this ex-Mormon user base is also a Mormon user base, and they're reflecting some of the values that they learned growing up.
Right.
I think it shields us from some of the, if you look at Reddit generally, it can be very, even for myself, who I'm not afraid to, I speak in a salty way, I see some of the subreddits, I don't like them. And there's just like dark corners of the internet that are available that I wouldn't want to go to. And we avoid all of that. I don't see a lot of that creepiness or sort of, do you know what I'm referring to?
Sure.
I'm referencing. I think everyone's always probably been freaked out when they wander into a subreddit and go, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
This doesn't seem healthy. This doesn't seem right. And I've never had that sense at Exmormon that's been the case.
Right. So let's conclude just talking about your hopes for the future. Do you have any aspirations for Exmormon? What does the future hold?
Well, we always need content, and we need folks who can generate in-depth discussions. I tend to be someone at this point, I'm not that invested in it, so my conversations tend to sort of skim along the surface. My hopes, the things that I enjoy personally at Rex Mormon are things like AMAs. All right, I enjoy getting someone like a Bill Reel, who, even though I may disagree with him in terms of his approach, I'm happy to see those kinds of AMAs where folks, there's a good banter, there's a good back and forth, there's a good open discussion about, hey, what's the healthiest way to leave the church, deal with these issues, blah, blah, blah. I think that's nice. And I think to the extent that we can have people who generate good podcasts, good discussion, that's all healthy. I'm a little bit older than I would think the demographic probably skews to 20 and 30 somethings. That would be my guess.
Right.
So to the extent that we can have content that maybe appeals to folks who've been in the church longer or want to go more in depth, or parenting, I'm a parent. So I think for folks who are trying to raise kids in or out of the church, I'm always I'm always interested in those kinds of discussions, how to do a good job with your kids, whether you're in or out.
Right.
And so that would be my hope. Otherwise, if you look at Reddit generally, if you go to the front page of Reddit, just stepping out of Rex Mormon and just look at the front page of Reddit, there's certainly themes and subcultures on Reddit that are completely there. It's a foreign country to me. If I were to look at Reddit as some of the cultures that exist there, if you talk about 4chan or any of these, I don't even know what they mean still at this point.
Right.
And memes and all of that. It just doesn't, I'm not someone who has my finger on the pulse of those kinds of subcultures. I mean, my son has a little more of a sense of what those, he'll explain some of those to me, like, oh, that's what that joke means. That's why they're saying that on the front page. It's referring to this other inside joke. I'm like, okay, but not particularly compelling to me as a user.
Right. So good content is the first thing. And then we've got that now. So are you looking for anything different than what we have now? Podcasts being generated, AMAs happening?
I think I would like to see more of an ongoing migration from some of the existing platforms. If I say that if I have any sort of disappointment to date, it would probably be that there hasn't been enough migration from existing platforms to Rex Mormon, because I think some of the folks who have like years of experience managing online communities and fostering discussions, if they were to come over, they could carve out their own niches within Rex Mormon. Rex Mormon has gotten so big that you could conceivably carve out a niche within that community and sort of run things according to your own. Are you catching what I'm saying?
Yeah. Can you give an example of an opportunity or a few opportunities that might exist?
Well, I think, I don't want to name names, but I think there are folks who I've heard them be fairly dismissive of Reddit, who I think would be interesting if they were actually to embrace the format and kind of understand that this is how rough and tumble it can get around the margins, but actually the core feature set is really good for driving traffic to whether you're doing podcasts or writing blog posts. I mean, if I were blogging at Patheos, I think our subreddit has the potential to drive much more traffic to a Patheos blog than anything they're going to get organically out of that site.
And what they would need to do is kind of the tax or the tactic is to not just post it and disappear, but to
they'd have to get a sense of how to ingratiate themselves with sort of the rabble at Rex Mormon. But and I say rabble ironically because after a few attempts, they would start to realize, well, where are the voices inside Rex Mormon that sort of align with where I'm going content-wise? And you'd pick those people up as your audience. I mean, people who can't be bothered with Mormon stories are not spending time on Rex Mormon following your content there. It's the people who find your content on Mormon Stories compelling, and that's who will form your sort of commentary, your base of commenters on Rex Mormon.
Right.
And it may be, maybe 15, 20% of the actual user base at Rex Mormon, but, they're loyal followers of whatever content you're generating.
So it sounds like you're talking about this virtuous cycle where content creators bring the conversation to Rex Mormon. They help Rex Mormon be a richer place for rich conversations. Right. That then helps promote both Rex Mormon to grow it and their own, viewership or listenership in their own content.
I mean, the biggest cautionary tale, without naming names, the biggest cautionary tale that I've seen in terms of attempting to use the platform are folks who come in and expect to be able to, say, dominate the front page from the get-go with whatever content or argument they're making. And as opposed to allowing it to just develop organically and just accept the reality that, hey, even if you only get 20 or 30% of the user base getting interested in what you're offering, you don't have to be up at the top of the front page every time. You know, you can get 40, 50, 100 upvotes, be in the middle of the front page, and it's going to generate interesting it's going to generate interesting commentary. You're going to get comfortable with the vibe of the platform, and down the road, it's what you said in terms of, okay, so Ryan McKnight, let's be honest, has used that platform to a T. I mean, he's shown how you can take that platform. I would say Kolabot, CES letter, has came in and had it, understood how to use the platform in a way that developed a loyal readership. There are so many other projects that could be done that they would have their group of loyal supporters at Rex Mormon who would kind of give them a baseline level of commentary every time they show up, but they're never going to be able to dominate the forum itself. It's just gotten too big at this point. We've scaled it up beyond that being able to happen. And I think when I say cautionary tale is because I think there are people who, why do they like the blog format? It's because you write a blog post. I own that blog post, and all the comments below that post are my little domain where I can sort of, police what's going on. Even with Facebook, you'll have a very popular Facebook, figure who's done all kinds of great things for Mos and ex-Mos, but they'll have a policy that you're not allowed to use the word cult on my Facebook page, so they'll post content and then everything gets policed according to their personal preferences. It's a completely different thing when you get to Rex Mormon. You're not going to be able to sort of enforce your personal preferences for what language is used in comments discussing your content. That goes out the window, and I think that's healthy in a way. I think it forces people who generate content to say, you know what? I'm in this more democratic relationship with my readers, and maybe that's good for me to learn to be comfortable with that. It's definitely not at the level of, say, YouTube commentary, Yahoo comments, sort of the real wild, wild west online where it's just garbage commentary and you never want to wade into that. It's certainly a step above that.
Right. And so for someone like a Jeremy or a Ryan or some future, content creator / Rex Mormon engager, what would you say kind of the top 3 to 5 golden rules are for successfully engaging Rex Mormon, for developing, a base of engagement on Rex Mormon? What are kind of the rules?
Well, so first off, at the level of content creation, you kind of want to take a look at your content and be honest with yourself. Am I making content that would be interesting to ex-Mormons?
Okay.
If you're generating content that's mostly interesting to people who are navigating what's colloquially called a faith crisis, if you're still in that mindset where you think this is a debate about truth claims and probably not that interesting to the larger community. Maybe you can get a niche at Rex Mormon that's going through that, but for the most part, people have kind of moved beyond that because it's Rex Mormon. It's not a nom site. If there's anything in your content that can be taken as maybe denigrating ex-Mormons or casting the choice to be an ex-Mormon or identifying as an ex-Mormon as somehow a lesser proposal, making ex-Mormon sort of lesser than, and that gets into why, for example, why wouldn't blog or knuckle content ever be particularly popular at Rex Mormon? Well, you've got a whole entire history of that group of people describing, exit narratives as cookie cutter, describing ex-Mormons as having, sort of tired
weak
out
or superficial.
We're just weak and superficial, and our narratives are not interesting to anyone who's got, serious intellectual chops. Well, if that's kind of where you're coming from, you're not going to find a huge audience among ex-Mormons. Go figure.
Right.
Then just third gets back to what we already talked about in terms of engaging with your audience, respecting the fact that the commenters you're going to find are going to be a class above, a grade above what would be available on a YouTube or a Yahoo or just in general online. It's going to be a grade above that, but it's going to be less manageable than, say, what you get on your own blog. You're not going to be able to just include your closest 20 friends to provide commentary to your content. It's going to be folks who you've never met before, and you have no idea what their user handle means. Like, right. So it's learning to engage the audience is a way to get popular. As soon as you start responding to some of these folks, that's going to develop warm feelings in the community, because a lot of these folks just want to be acknowledged as having a voice to talk about Mormonism. Rex Mormon may be the only place during their day that they can actually sit down and have a free discussion about Mormonism, because if they talk about it with their wife, she's going to threaten divorce, and this is their outlet. And respect the fact that this is their outlet for being able to talk about Mormonism in a free and open way. Don't come in and say, I'm going to police the way you talk about Mormonism. Yeah. Look, most of these folks, they get that every day in terms of getting their language policed about how they talk about Mormonism. So don't do that. I mean, otherwise, that's it. I think generating content that would appeal to ex-Mormons and not denigrating ex-Mormons as a group or as people. So
I love it. All right. Well, Jason, I'm so glad that we were able to have you on to talk about this important phenomenon. And I think it's one of the most important things to happen, definitely in 21st century Mormonism. And I think its influence is only going to continue to grow. And I can't see anything unseating it in the near future. So,
well, I hope you're a part of helping. Sort of, maybe there are folks in your, I think this is more in your wheelhouse than it would be in mine, in terms of having, a network that you could help folks migrate into the platform and see how it plays out. I'd certainly enjoy it.
Yeah. So if you or others have ideas on how to make that happen, I'm thrilled to see Rex Mormon's power and influence grow.
Okay. All right. Well, I feel like I've been really well behaved in this interview. Which
do you want to drop an F-bomb or something?
No, I think at this point we've gone this long with me kind of keeping it clean and family friendly. We might as well just save it for another opportunity.
All right. Well, I'm sorry to have downgraded your reputation.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right out the bat. That's my cred. All right.
Our fearless leader. No, I mean our non. All right, Jason. Anything you want to share about your? Normally we end Mormon Stories with people's beliefs or testimony, even if it's secular. Any sort of closing feelings or sentiments or values, or closing statement you want to share with the listeners?
On a personal level, probably my favorite aspect of Rex Mormon is the way I think it has helped some people learn to say no. And just going back to sort of the start of our discussion, the way I bridle at coercion. And I think that a lot of what passes for rites of passage in Mormonism are actually just various coercive moments as we grow up. That's probably my favorite part of Rex Mormon, is just watching people saying, you know what? I learned to say no. I learned to undo some of the learned helplessness that I picked up along the way as a Mormon, and things are getting better. That to me is the number one on a personal level. So that's my testimony, that it's okay to say no. It's okay to get angry. I think probably the best lesson I've had going to Asia and just sort of getting as far away from any of this as possible is that it's okay to get really, really angry with the people you love and let them know your honest feelings about something. And it's easier to recover from that than it is to recover from years of resentment and blame and hiding, because you're afraid to let people know what your true thoughts are on a topic, whether it be Mormonism or where the kids need to go to school. I mean, that's my favorite part of Exmormon. It seems like it's giving us a chance to learn how to voice our opinions in assertive and healthy ways.
I love it.
All right.
Can I say Godspeed, Rex Mormon, or is that inappropriate?
No, that's totally appropriate. Any blasphemy you could throw in as we fade away would be perfectly fine.
Lucifer speed, Satan speed, Rex Mormon. How's that?
You're a noob, man. You haven't been doing this very long, have you? You got to come up with some better blasphemy.
Well, right. Outdo me. I invite you.
Oh no, I'm as lost when it comes to that as anyone.
All right. Well, cool. Right. Well, Jason Echols, thanks for joining us. Thanks to all the mods and participants of Rex Mormon that make it all possible. Check them out. I guess we should give the domain. It's reddit.com. That's 2 Ds, reddit.com/r/exmormon. Check it out. Thanks to everyone who makes that possible. And just really briefly, thanks to all the listeners of Mormon Stories and the Open Stories Foundation. Your donations make all this possible. So thanks to everyone who supports us. Please check us out at mormonstories.org. And we thank everyone for their support. All right, Jason, you're awesome.
Hey, cheers. Sayonara, John.
Don't be a stranger.
All right.
Stay in touch, brother.
See you, man.
All right, take care. Thanks to all our listeners. You guys take care.